Good morning. I'm working on the last of the panels, of the 3 panels, so this is panel number 3. I can do math. And a lot of times I watch some kind of video or have something playing in the background while I'm doing this. This is a straight edge. It's one of my favorite of the bigger straight edges. I'm putting a framing around this particular piece, and I'm just going through and making lots of noise. So you can tell this is one of my favorite of the carving mallets. I like the longer straight edge because it helps me keep a nice, it's not so choppy going across. And in this particular case, it's 1.5 inches in. And I prefer not to do framing. And the reason I prefer not to, it's a pain in the butt. So I'm going through, and like I tell all my students and all the people who want to learn wood carving, what you do, you lay out your pattern. So this is the pattern laid out. And then next step is to start putting in your stop cuts. Your stop cuts tell you where to stop. It tells the wood that as you're cutting it, this is as far as you go. So I like it's a very simple concept. Now, here's I need to lose some weight. Okay, so anyways, going across here, it stops here. This is the edge now. So this runs with the grain. So I did this cross grain cuts first. Why did I do that? So that when I go to put these cuts in, it stops there. So you have to understand and you have to think about those kinds of things as you are going about doing this. And it's you know, I love people's comments. Sometimes they say, well, wood carving is actually quite simple. All you do is take away all of the pieces that do not belong to the object you are carving. There's a lot of rules that I think become intuitive as you carve more. And those rules are following the grain, understanding the grain, understanding the wood. Some people say, well, that looks rather boring. Why is it that you go through pounding in, and why don't you just take a router and cut it out with a router? The nicest way I can reply is, well, I want to get to know the wood. As I chop into this wood, as I put the stop cuts in, it tells me what's going on with the wood. It tells me if it wants to splinter. It tells me if it's got grain that's running in odd areas. Sometimes as you get in, all of a sudden you find where there was a little branch that was running across at one point. And so now you have like a little circular change in the grain of the wood. I love this table. This is probably one of the best investments I ever did. I mean, I've got a big workbench behind me, behind the camera here, that goes halfway across the room, actually probably 3/4 across the room. And it's a nice big workbench. But I mostly have stuff stored on top of it, all my tools and things along those lines. And it's also much lower, and when it's that low, then you're bent over and your back hurts after a while. So I love the height of this. I love that it turns, and because you're not just, you know, when you carve, you need to kind of be able to address the wood. That's a cool way of saying it. Good morning, Mr. Wood. Okay. So I've got the edges all cut in so that then when I go through and do some other cutting, then that's going to do a nice stop cut. It's going to stop there. Eventually, this frame will also be carved. And interestingly enough, the carving is going to look like, I'm going to carve it so that it looks more like wood. So you take wood and make it look like wood. You can see there's a little bit of a defect here, but you know what? It only goes a 1/16 of an inch, and I knew I was going to be carving that down. That was just all these things as you adjust the wood up and down to get the right pieces in there. Again, this is kind of, that may or may not, but I'll integrate that in piece over there. Okay. So essentially, this piece has two primary things that run through it. One is this aqueduct that's going across, and you see the heavy lines that go across that way. There's my perspective. It's kind of going down here, and then it's going up along that way. And then you have this monster big gnarly tree. I love gnarly trees. Gnarly trees and I go a long way. Anyways, so, and then because this is my carving, my piece that I have done, I am putting my name in it. That is something I don't often do. I forget a lot of times. So this is a tool rack. It has a magnet on it, and my daughter gave that to me. And so I like it because then I can place my tools and they don't go scattering across the table and stuff along those lines. And so I'm going to use this particular Mr. Particular. Probably tend to be a little more exacting on my placement of tools than some other carvers. I don't know if that's just habit or... I mostly worked with smaller pieces. This is unusual for me to have worked with such a large piece. And so anyways, this is for me to do. And so I'm just going to I have tools behind me. If you notice, I kind of go to where I'm going to end up, and I take that wood off first. You want those nice little curls. That tells you you're shaving the wood off, not doing a big forceful chopping or cutting. see how that stop cut just holds? I get quieter when I'm concentrating. So I'm sloping from the top here down. And that's giving it the appearance. With this being higher than it is. Little subtleties. Disney is famous for that. I don't want to compare myself to Disney, but I'm saying it is used very often with Disney. You add sound, visual, and motions all at the same time, and your mind says, oh yes, I am traveling, I am moving, I am leaving on a jet plane. Good hookers. So at this point, I will be outlining some of my major pieces of the tree and the limbs and stuff, and then that'll give me more direction. Okay,